And like old heads, asking me like, how much they paying you, man? He's like, you getting good. And I'm like, well, they pay the band $250. He's like, boy, don't ever touch the stage for that. And I'm like, all right. So like again, you learn from these people. He's like, look, if they don't pay you, if you can't pay your band $100 a man, he's like, ain't no sense you touching the stage. So then you start to think, like, do I live by these words or do I not? And then you find out there's other people out there that think the same, and you're like, all right. So you put all this together and you make your own like tutelage out of what they said. And I was lucky enough to have a father who had been in this type of situation, and he'd been in the music biz for a long time, and he taught me the same thing. He was like, yeah, man. He was like, if you playing the bars and playing at these restaurants and stuff like that will lead you to other stuff where you can ask for more money. He's like, make sure you get paid decently at the bars, but don't gouge. He's like, they're never going to pay you that much. They'll get somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to look for private parties or shows or stuff like that, people are going to find you at these places. They're going to see you, or word of mouth's going to spread. Somebody's going to be like, I saw this guy, Keith Sanders. You should go ask him what it is. And as soon as they ask you for your rates, that's when your rates go up. Because this is your personal business, not a bar. Like, this is somebody contacting you for a private party. So then I kind of put it all together in my little tight little book in my mind on how to talk pricing, I guess. Because you don't want to gouge people, but you also want to get paid what you're worth.
To talk, to touch, but tall is the grass now up to my ears. Many are the thoughts, many more of fears. So I duck down till the light clears and stand by holding my guard and keep running circles in the yard.
Hello, America. What you just heard was new music by the West Texas Exiles with their latest release, Circles in the Yard, written by Colin Gilmore and performed by the West Texas Exiles. Them boys are red hot. Today's episode brings us to Keith Sanders. Keith and I have passed by each other at shows, but we never said hi. I don't know why. I think we were just both shy. I don't know why. We were both shy. Hey, he's a nice guy. We discussed his upbringing in Mississippi, his how he got started playing the trumpet, and how awesome it is to be performing with some of the local musicians here in Texas. So a lot of good things discussed on this podcast. And without further ado, here's Keith. So Keith told me you had a dog throw up on you.
Yeah, like right before I got here. Shout out to Durango. My 14-year-old pup.
Oh,
he's a good dog. He just drank too much water too fast.
how old's the dog again?
He's 14.
14. How'd you get him?
I was living with my roommate at the time, Simon Strickland. His dog was pregnant, and they had 8 or 9 labs. I think one of them didn't make it, and I wasn't gonna get him at first because I was a musician. I was on the road half the time.
Yeah,
so I couldn't take care of no dog. But he kept kind of crawling up on the couch and figuring out his way out of this little kennel that we had for the dogs, and figured out his way to sleep with me. And then we kind of fell in love with each other, I guess.
Yeah, being a musician is, I would imagine, pretty tough to owning a pet too, because you're gone, and that's why you got to get a cat, man. Even they don't love you that much, but
I feel like a lot of musician friends have cats.
They're
for that single reason.
Yeah, they're nice when they want to be, and they're affectionate when they want to be, but it's like you have to earn their respect, and that's tough.
For sure.
So we have crossed paths many times, but we have never said hello to each other.
Not at all. I've seen you
I blame myself.
I've seen you work. I blame myself too, though. I've seen you working, and I've seen all the videos that my friends post. I'm like, I gotta figure out who this remote guy is.
I had to figure out who you were, and then lo and behold, thanks to Sean's Saint Germain, I reached out to him because of his band.
Yeah.
It's, one of my favorite bands here in Austin. I'm like, hey, what are you doing later on tonight? And he goes, oh, I'm playing the Chalmers with Keith. And I'm like, what? Okay. For the longest time, I assumed he only played with, Rickshaw, but then I found out.
Nah, Sean is like one of those pickup hustlers,
right?
Man. So he plays everything from like country swing to jazz
and again,
rock and roll. Like he's all over the map, man.
Yeah, I had no idea until I had these long conversations, and that's kind of the beauty of this podcast is like all the musicians that I work with, we don't ever get to talk because it's show up to the show, film my stuff, and then I'm right back home because I want to get you your content so you can share it with the world because that's that's part of the business now. But yeah, so thank you for coming. And
of course, man.
What are your gripes with social media? Because you were just telling me about
it's not exactly a gripe as much as I just miss the days of like playing music, letting the music talk for itself.
Yeah.
And it's like now you gotta promote yourself and do all these things to try to become an entertainer as well. And I don't want to be a social media influencer, but like it kind of comes with the territory at this day and age.
It's part of the territory, like you said. It's part of the business plan.
Pretty much. When they draw out that map, it's like, well, you got to do this too. And I'm like, why do I have to do that?
I think, to play the devil's advocate, I think it shows, I think everybody can claim they're a musician now. So having this as a tool to present to bookers, promoters, whoever, I think it's a good way to do that. But also it can become, you better silence that. This is a sacred place of no notification.
I didn't know that was happening. Okay. Like I said, I was on Instagram. I had to turn the volume up so I could see what the video is going to be.
I think it's a tool. I think it's a necessary tool now, unfortunately. And to your point, I do miss those days when you could just go play music. Not that I would know the ins and outs of that, but it's part of the job. And when were the days of social media and what were you doing before then when you were just playing music and not having to post on social media? How long ago was that? That's a bad question. Right. That's a bad phrased question, but let's see where it goes.
I'm for reference, I'm 37 and I'm not super old. I'm old enough.
We're mature.
So, yeah, no doubt. So back when I started, Facebook was just coming out. And it was like a platform. You throw up a video if you wanted to. It wasn't necessary.
Yep.
So like back then, you still had to promote yourself, and it was a little harder. But it was like posters, man. You hit the Kinko's, hit the Walmart or whatever you can do to print out these posters and pass them out, and flyers. So you beat the streets. It was word of mouth. It was kind of for the consumer. It was kind of personal because they're gonna meet somebody in the band.
Yeah.
Like if they see you out in the street, like they're gonna know who you are. Mm-hmm. So like like the personal appeal. It's also I can't reach somebody halfway across the world by passing out posters. So again, it is a necessary, not evil, but necessary tool to for musicians.
Yeah,
like because you get to meet people that you're not around anymore. You go on tour, and the person still wants to know what you're doing.
Yeah,
in St. Louis or somewhere.
I think it reveals a little bit of it peels back the layer of the individual, and there's the authenticity factor that kind of gets discovered as you peel back those layers, and you find out who the individual really is through social media, if that is the authentic person. There's all people could always
because it can get twisted and skewed real fast.
And that's why podcasts, I believe, are important in revealing some of those layers as well.
That part.
So, where are you from originally?
I was born in Albany, Georgia. I grew up there till I was around 8, and then we moved to Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and then to northern Mississippi, to Oxford, Mississippi, for a couple of years. And then I grew up from 8th grade on in Cleveland, Mississippi. So basically, I grew up in Mississippi.
There's 2 Clevelands? I thought there was only 1.
There's like 17 of them.
What was your first introduction to wanting to be a musician?
I was 3 years old, and my dad is a music teacher or music professor.
Okay.
I guess he's retired now, but like growing up, he always had musical instruments around, and he had a trumpet laying around, and he tells me I was interested in playing the trumpet. I kept trying to make sounds out of it. He was like, it doesn't work without a mouthpiece. So he showed me how it worked. he was like, I picked it up incredibly fast. And he taught me my first scale at 3.5, 4. And I played trumpet until I was 19 or so.
Wow.
And ended up in a show choir in college.
Okay.
Started singing for real. And I was like, man, this kind of fell in love with it because like it's an expression. Like I had some friends who were writing music at the time, and they kind of showed me this is how you can put your thoughts to pen and paper and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, this sounds dope. And I was like, how do I sing and play trumpet that don't make sense? So I tried to play the keys, but it took too long and I was impatient. So I grabbed the guitar, and I'm a psychopath, so I shut myself away for 6 months and learned how to play guitar.
You're like a blues artist, Robert Johnson. He was the guy who made the deal with the devil.
Oh yeah, I grew up right down the street from 4 of his graves.
Oh shit, really?
So
Okay.
where I grew up is the Mississippi Delta.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I grew up like 30 minutes from Clarksdale, Mississippi.
Yeah, the folklore
Yeah.
was like he sold his soul to the devil to play that good, but I think it was just to your point,
Nah.
just locking himself away to learn how to play.
Well, they, the real story that I've heard from
Please.
other people was that he wanted to be a blues musician so bad, but he started too early. And everybody told him, this ain't it. You need to go back and figure it out because what you're doing is really bad. So, like he was saying, he locked himself away and he disappeared for like a year or two. And then when he came back, he was so good that the only way they could explain it was saying that he sold his soul to the devil. Not that he wouldn't practice, not
Right.
that he grew on his craft. But the best thing about it was the allure was like his social media, like that story kind of grew and he used it. So he started writing songs,
Yeah.
that matched the allure. But also he might have sold his soul because he did die very young.
He did, yeah.
He
Howling
did.
on the ground like a...
He did claim that hellhounds were chasing him.
Yep.
They also said he had syphilis, so
There's so many stories.
there's 3, that's what I said. I grew up away from 3 or 4 graves of Robert Johnson. Like they just put graves down and said this is where he died, and used it as a marketing tool and a tourist trap.
It worked to an extent. So your dad was a music teacher. What did your mom do?
My mother was a teacher.
Oh, as well. Okay.
Yeah. My dad ended up going to school and getting his doctorate, so he ended up being a dean or chairman of the fine arts department, and then he moved on to become a provost at Lincoln University.
When you have to do, he sounds like he's a good writer because in order to do all that, you have to write a lot, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Good for him. I was never big on schooling. I didn't like writing to begin with, at least the essays and
He didn't like
essays.
writing either, but he had to get that. It was like a 500 page. I remember I was 12 watching him try to type this thing away, and he'd be up for hours. And he essentially had to write a book. Like it was like 500 something pages.
Yeah. He's got to be smart.
I've still never read it.
I
He's
know.
got it somewhere.
My sister wrote a dissertation, or
Yeah,
a dissertation or a thesis.
Well, it's
Anyway,
a thesis dissertation
yeah.
that they have to do. Like it's combined.
It was a book, and I'm like, I started reading the first pages, and I'm like, I'm way too dumb to understand all these
Facts.
words that you're using. So when did the thought of getting to Austin, Texas kind of get in your brain?
Honestly, I came to visit my buddy Tripp.
Okay.
And he was living down here. He moved here. We were both in Oxford, Mississippi. And he moved down here, and he was like, yo, come visit. He's like, I think you would love this city. He's like, I want you to try to move down here. He's like, the music here is different. And I was like, yeah. And I had been traveling out of Oxford, like using it as a port because I was still like moving and playing music. But I got uncomfortable, and I was like, man, I really wasn't doing nothing, like a creative sense. I was kind of going downhill. He was like, let's rev up the juices, come visit me. And I was like, all right, bet. So I came down here.
And what year was this?
2017 or 18. 17, I think.
Okay.
Was the first time I visited him. And came here, went out and saw just some random shows. Like, it was fun. Met one of his buddies who was doing a singer-songwriter thing at Russia Tap, who ended up becoming one of my best friends. Shout out to Alden Hedges. Love you. But he was like, hey, man, you want to get up here and play? And I was like, nah, man, I'm on vacation. He's like, they keep telling me that you can play, and they're bugging me, so either you do or I got to go tell them to shut up. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll get up here and play. And immediately, like, just playing that round was enough where I was like, this is kind of where I want to be.
And so how much longer after that did you decide I'm going to move to Austin?
I got here in late October, November 2019.
Okay.
Got here just in time for the world to shut down. It was beautiful.
That was one of the questions that I was going to ask you is prior to, what was the music scene like before 2020 versus after? Can you talk to that?
I honestly don't know because I had only been here
that's
on a stop through.
Mm-hmm.
Back in like 14. It was cool back then when I stopped through, but we didn't like explore the city. Like, we were just in and out. And then when I came back 17, it was cool. Like I said, like, we went and saw just random people playing in random bars, and it was strong. It was cool. But after COVID, it kind of fell off for a minute, and then it came back. I think for a second it came back stronger, because I call it the pacifier effect. If like you take a pacifier out of a baby's mouth, they're gonna cry, and then you kind of let them cry, and you put the pacifier back in their mouth, and they're like, oh, this is so much better. So like, you take away music for a while, and people can't go see live music, and they're like, oh, they can start chomping at the bit,
right?
Freak out, and then you let them do it again, and it just kind of becomes like the old days, like they're a rage, like people want to come see it.
It led to, I think it was Austin Garden Studio that was kind of in the they were opening, or they weren't opening, they were constructing during the pandemic, and they opened up after. And I think they've gone through their growing pains, but they kind of dialed it in a bit to at least where they're having more live music there.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that was one of the good things about the pandemic is, to your point, we all kind of missed hanging out, and we took that for granted. And after everything kind of normalized, I think now it's, to your point, it is growing, and it's going where we need it to be, I guess, in a sense. When you were first developing your musical taste, what were some of the genres of music that really inspired you?
Oh, man, that's such a hard question for me. Because, like,
growing
up, I know, I'm trying to think of how to, like, phrase it. So, growing up, my dad had a collection of CDs and tapes. And he kind of, he kind of let us explore. He's like, this was you. The one thing he didn't have too much of, because he said we were kids and we had to make our choices later in life if we wanted to, was hip hop. And he was like, if y'all want to listen to that, like, you can go for it, but like, I'm not going to just push it on you. And then, so he had everything in it, and like, it was wild. But the jazz influence was big in my life until I grew up enough to like make my own decisions, because he was always playing jazz, so therefore I was listening to it and always want to hear it. And soul music was one that was just always played. Once I got old enough, I got friends, of course, and they introduced me to new stuff. So hip hop comes into the fray, R&B comes into the fray, and then I get to college and I meet some beautiful, interesting white people who had great weed, and they introduced me to jam bands, and I'm like, oh, this is sick. Like, it's like combining all the beautiful things in music and put them into one thing. And I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, it was.
So I got this little hybrid thing in my head, where I try to absorb as much music as possible, because you never know what genre you can learn from.
That's
even country.
Yeah.
I hate no country. It's not my stick, but like, there's still some beautiful stuff you can learn from it.
It seems like you had a real mature sense of music and the inspiration that that you can draw from it. You weren't ever, for me, for example, like when I go to college parties, if they weren't playing like Bright Eyes or Interpol or all the emo stuff that I liked, I'm like, this party sucks. You don't know what music is. Like, there's no emotion behind this hip hop music. What is this? Everyone's dancing. Like, and as I've gotten older, I've matured in my taste, and I've realized that, to your point, you can draw inspiration from a lot of different music, but now it's like, hey, if people are dancing and having a good time, who am I to say that, my music is better than yours? But it seems like you just had a very mature sense of,
it's one thing I try my best. It never pans out that way. We're human, like the human nature. But I try my best to never say that music sucks. It's just different, because somebody likes that music somewhere. I think that some people, like, their vocals are untrained or some stuff like that, or they haven't quite found the sound that they're looking for. I try my best not to be like, man, this person blows. Like, it's just different music. Like, I can't say that person sucks. They might be going for that sound. Yeah. And I'm just over here being an a-hole. I don't want to be that. Like, that's their taste in music. As long as music's being played, I should be happy.
You said you went to college, right?
Yeah.
What college did you go to?
I went to Mississippi Delta Community College.
Oh, right on. Hey.
Go Trojan. Go ahead, Mohead. And then I went to Mississippi Valley State University. Okay. And then I went to, this is a total lie, because I told it to my parents. Oh, no. But I went to Ole Miss to get my master's, and I never did that. Not at all. Not once. I didn't even, nope. I just went there to play music.
What did you tell your parents you were doing there? Like, hey, I'm going to go get a degree. Did they ask for, like, credentials?
My dad knew I was lying. My mom was like, oh, yeah, it's going to be great. And he's like, all right. Yeah. But I graduated with mass communications and emphasis in journalism and broadcast.
Wait. RTF? Radio, television, film?
Yeah, we did all that. But I was like, they had to like choose emphasis on something. And I think I did.
Electronic media is what my degree was in.
But I did PR too, I think. I can't remember.
We had to take a PR class. Yeah. One of the most beneficial things that I learned from my time there was, if it bleeds, it leads. That was one of the first things they taught us about the news. It's like, if it's blood and guts, it's going to be the top of the headlines. That's how you get eyeballs. And that's when I learned, okay, maybe this might not be the field for me. So what did you learn at Ole Miss? Just how to play more music?
Pretty much. That was when my tutelage began. I ended up playing... I kind of learned how to hustle there. Yeah. Because, I mean, it was a college town, and I was playing in a structured band with this guy, Adrian Dickey, but I was also building stuff with other people, and I was also playing solo acoustic stuff, and I was happy to be getting any money at that time. I was like, yeah,
I was asking, how much were they giving you? $20, $50
back then?
Yeah.
They kept it around the 75 to 100 range.
For like an hour-long set, or 2 hours, 3 hours?
Shit, 3 hours, sometimes 4. I didn't care. But it was... I was happy because I was like playing in the band, and like that was structured money. Like, he was getting paid whatever. And then we'd like pick up these gigs, and I worked at this place called the Rib Cage. And then when the owner found out I could sing, he was like, why have you not been playing downstairs in my place? I was like, I don't know. You had your little country people. I didn't know if I would fit into that. He's like, I don't care about that. He's like, come on down, play this. And like, I was like, okay. He's like, I'll pay you $250 to play for 3 hours. And I was like, oh, wow. Bet. I said, I'm on the way. So that's when I learned that people got more money to give you if you talk to them right. So you have to build your brand and then build who you are. And once you have a name for yourself, then you can. I don't want to use like a pretentious word. Command more money. Like you can say like, this is what I'm worth, right. You know, and like either they say yes or they say no, and then you keep it pushing and you go to the next person.
Yeah. So talk to me a little about that value system that you either was created by the music industry or was that value standard, was that created by the music industry or was that value system created in your own head?
Oh, that was me and like people that I had been around. Yeah. And
was it like, oh, so-and-so is making so much by playing X amount of hours.
Yeah.
That's what I want to be valued.
Kind of.
Okay.
And like old heads, you know, asking me like, how much they paying you, man? He's like, you getting good. And I'm like, well, you know, they pay the band $250. He's like, boy, don't ever touch the stage for that. And I'm like, all right. So like again, you know, you learn from these people. He's like, look, if they don't pay you, if you can't pay your band $100 a man, he's like, ain't no sense you touching the stage. So then you start to think, like, do I live by these words or do I not? And then you find out there's other people out there that think the same. And you're like, all right. So you put all this together and you make your own like tutelage out of what they said. And I was lucky enough to have a father who had been in this type of situation, and he'd been in the music biz for a long time, and he taught me the same thing. He was like, yeah, man, he was like, if you playing the bars and playing at these restaurants and stuff like that will lead you to other stuff where you can ask for more money. He's like, make sure you get paid decently at the bars, but don't gouge. He's like, they're never going to pay you that much. They'll get somebody else to do it. Yeah. But if you're going to look for private parties or shows or stuff like that, people are going to find you at these places. They're going to see you, or word of mouth's going to spread. Somebody's going to be like, I saw this guy, Keith Sanders. You should go ask him what it is. And as soon as they ask you for your rates, that's when your rates go up. Because this is your personal business, not a bar. Like, this is somebody contacting you for a private party. So then I kind of put it all together in my little tight little book in my mind on how to talk pricing, I guess. Because you don't want to gouge people, but you also want to get paid what you're worth.
How do you toe that line of like, there's a job coming up, there's a gig, and you know it's going to be a good crowd, but they're not meeting you at your price? Like, what are you factoring in to do that job or not? You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, people want to pay me an exposure, and I kind of value that. To your point, like, you're playing at bars, there's eyeballs there, there's ears there that could potentially lead to other jobs, but you get that one job that might pay you an exposure more, but the value that they're paying you at is well beneath your, you know, what your acceptable income is. What factors into doing that job?
I don't know. Kind of key factors is like, where does this lead for me? Okay. Or the band that I'm in personally? Like, does it have some kind of growth potential? Like, yeah, bigger gigs, like if somebody that's on a whole nother caliber than me asked me to come open up for them, and then they say, well, this is what we got, this is what we can do for you. Like, you negotiate, and they say we ain't budging, and you say, okay, well, I'm gonna take it. But I just had to see if I can do it. It's like, you know, I can only squeeze a stone for so long. Like,
and that's a problem that I have is I have a fear of rejection. Like, that's where when I go, what's your budget? And they tell me the budget. I'm like, I don't even think about renegotiating. I'm like, can we do it for this number? I don't even think about that because I'm scared of, all right, here's my counter offer. And then they tell me no, and then in my head immediately I'm like, I just lost a job. Like, they're gonna go to someone else. Like, I have that fear.
So I heard this person say this the other day, and I couldn't tell if they were a comedian or what it was, but I heard it like on a thing. And I had the same thought process. But he was saying, for your wedding day, you know, you ask a girl, you know, like I go to this girl and I ask her, I'm a hairdresser. I go to a girl and I ask her, like, how would you want to look for your wedding day? Da da da. She's like, well, I want to look like this. And then I tell her, well, that's gonna cost you X amount of dollars. She's like, well, that's not my budget. That's what I do. And well, I look at her and I say, well, I guess you can go find somebody else to do it. I don't know what they're gonna make you look like. I can make you look like that. So you make the decision. If you want to look less than that and you want to pay less than that, go for it, girl. I can't stop your hustle. But like, it's the same mentality where you know your craftsmanship, and like, it's gonna hurt for a minute because sometimes you're gonna miss out on some of those jobs. But at the same day, when people know you're playing at that caliber of music, they're gonna assume that's what your caliber is. And they're like, dang, I guess he's really good. Like, especially all the people that do it, like, you do it for word of mouth. If you want to do something for artistry, go for it. Like, but tell yourself, this is for artistry. Tell people that this is for like some passion project that I have. But if you're gonna do something for work and passion, like, you gotta set the box on each side which one you want to do. So I try to keep it at that, where I tell people, it's like, hey, do you want this caliber or something, or do you want this caliber or something? Right. If you want this caliber, I'm gonna be real honest, this caliber gonna cost you.
As it should.
So break the piggy bank and let me go ahead and get them ducats.
Was there a light bulb moment where your confidence in your skill and your playing ability met that high dollar value, or that value that you established in your head? Do you remember that moment?
Hell yeah, I remember it through and through. I was 27, and I was still playing like little bar gigs and everything. And my dad and some of his friends were talking to me or whatever, and they were like, man, you still playing, like, doing these, like, you ain't, it's like, your skill level's like starting to pop up, like, you ain't kind of moving around, you don't want to come play with us, do this. And I was like, huh? He's like, yeah, man, you come play guitar, you learn these songs. He gave me a set list, and that was the first time that I had to really work out something that I didn't know I was a part of building. So I had to go work this set list out, and I had to go transpose it to guitar and like what I was playing. And that's when I was like, okay, it's that type of work. And I did it. And I went and played that gig, and he looked at me, he's like, now you in that world. And I was like, what? He's like, you a musician. And I was like, I wasn't a musician before. He's like, nah. He said, you was playing. You was good. He said, but now that you got the knowledge, you could play with anybody. And I was like, oh, word. And I didn't think about it that way, because I just was curious on like how I'm going to make this happen. Because, like, you know, this reputable man asked me to do something for him. And I'm like, how do I do this? And then when my dad gave me that quintessential pat on the back, like, you did it, son. And I was like, that's when I was like, all right, bet, I'm here now. Like, I've arrived at that place where I can say I am a musician. I can, if you want me to play for you, I can do it. But, you know, this is what I cost.
So I would assume that, you know, learning to play trumpet taught you to read music, right?
Well, yeah, I learned through that process, yeah.
And so
I don't read that much anymore. I can't lie to you.
I was going to say, how does that translate to playing guitar?
It translates in scales. So growing up knowing the scales and like reading their placement helped with on the go playing, because like people call out numbers and like a key that you're supposed to be in, and your brain got to compute fast enough what's the 7 in an 8 minor scale, and you're like, boom, here we are. So that's the only thing that helped with translating. Other than that, not much on guitar. I'm not gonna lie to you. I wish I could give you a different answer and be like, yeah, I read. Nah. I'm gonna be honest, about 80% of people that play guitar can't read music. I'm lucky enough that I can in other, because like it doesn't always translate. Like from reading music in a treble clef or a bass clef, like it's all kind of, I don't know, it's confusing unless you know what lane you're in.
Yeah.
Like you know what you're trying to play, what instrument you're trying to play.
So when in those earlier days when a musician would invite you up on stage and ask you like, hey, come play with me, what were you listening to when you were playing with them? Is just the key of the song, or were they, to your point, were they calling out like, hey, this is a key of whatever, and then
well, sometimes when I did that, like when it's just a hop up, it's they call out the key and you kind of go from there. And like I was saying, they call out numbers. So the numbers would equivalent to like what letter in that scale you're playing.
Yeah.
So like, so in blues, it's easier to me to break it down, I guess, that way. It's like a 1-4-5, you know. So the 1 of an A scale would be the A, and then the 4 is, I'm finna fuck this up because I can't think.
No,
right
it's
now.
all right. You don't
My
have a
brain don't
guitar in
work
front
out.
of you. You're not in your natural
It's
habitat.
not even that. It's like my brain's not processing. But basically, you can count down to the 4th letter in that scale.
Got it. Okay.
And
All
then
right.
you got the one you're looking for.
All right.
And then you go to the 5th and so on. And like that's the basic breakdown. But when he asked me to do it, I had already transcribed the song, so I knew what part I was playing because I knew what part I was playing because I was reading it off of my charts like that I made. That's what I was saying. But like jumping up with somebody, as long as I have the key,
Yeah.
I can go from there.
Okay. So you're rolling around in Ole Miss. What were you doing as far as like, were you just getting money from the music that you were playing? Or
No.
Yeah. What were the other side hustles that you were doing?
I was in the kitchen at that place called the Rib Cage.
Okay. Doing what? Cooking
ribs.
Oh, man.
Then I started serving there, and I worked at a place called Proud Larry's making pizza. Then I started serving there, and then I got into the world of bartending. And bartending was the most functional thing to do to make money while you weren't making money playing music.
Okay.
Because A, it allowed you to promote your music to drunkards. B, it was lucrative enough to the point where you didn't have to play all the time to do it.
But how did that work? Since I feel like most bartenders make a lot of their income like on the weekends, but you're also like musicians also make money on their weekends. How did that balance out?
That's what I'm saying. Like if you didn't have gigs that weekend, I was a pickup artist. Like
Okay.
you can, if you're one of the lucky few that you make friends with people in all the industry, you can pick up shifts or whatever. And I call it, living that pirate life, where you kind of just the mercenary life, the merc life, where you just kind of pick up anywhere. And it kind of equivalated to music because I could do that with that. So like it just took knowing how to run the system. So if they had a system I was cool with, I would ask to pick up a shift whenever and go from there. Okay. But most of the time at the Rib Cage, the place I was working at, the boss there was really lenient. Like our owner he knew what I was doing and like he knew what the end goal was. And shout out to Buck Walden. Thank you for that. Yeah. I would be gone for weeks at a time, a month at a time, and I always have a job when I got back. Man. So that was like, I had luck. I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah. That was one of those lucky things that helped my music career work out.
That's one thing that's very awesome that your boss did that, because as I run my business, I think about expanding and I think about, okay, I need to hire a second shooter, but the product that I want to pull out, I don't know if I can give that trust to someone else because it's representative of me and my beliefs and my brand. And I just couldn't ever hire someone else to do my job because I just couldn't trust them. But that's awesome that your boss was.
You got a system?
I don't have a system, but that's the thing. It's art. Not to sound pretentious. It's art. I know there's a system. Go ahead. Talk to me.
So I you play in these bands, like I play in band Brother Thunder, and we don't interchange band members much,
Yeah.
but we also have a system in place where, like, if we had to, said somebody else could come in and play it, so we don't lose our integrity of the music that we've been writing.
Yeah.
Like, we can do that, and the show can keep rolling, because that's the business, right?
Right.
The show must go on. So I'd say develop a system. If you're gonna get a second shooter, and if they can't adhere to what your art is, like, keep it pushing.
You make
know?
a lot of sense, but okay, what's your system like? Do you have music sheets or okay? Yeah, but no one can play the beats like I can. I mean, I'm just gonna
Nobody ever
be
is.
honest. But then that's why I got to charge a premium, right?
Factuals. Because if you're doing it one man, but I promise you this, you can't catch every angle.
Yeah. Well, I can at least try. Damn it, Keith.
It's true.
So, are you currently fully employed as a musician here in Austin? Oh, yeah. Who has a better barbecue, Mississippi or Texas?
See, that kind of depends on what we ask. Because, like,
Iron it out.
Pork
Iron out the
barbecue,
details.
I got to go with, like, Memphis and Mississippi area.
Okay.
Beef barbecue, Texas untouched.
All right.
I don't know if anybody else got that. Ain't nobody slinging brisket and beef ribs like y'all. Texas real. I didn't even know that beef ribs was a thing until I got to Texas. I'm serious. I'm dead. Like, brisket, everybody's trying to cook brisket. They doing okay. But when I got here, somebody's like, yo, we got to go to Terry Black's. I was like, what is it, Terry Black? And they're like, it's a restaurant. Just trust me. I'm like, all right, cool. Get there. And I see these. I was like, what pigs do they got back here? This large. He's like, nah, that's cow, man. That's beef ribs. I was like, they be cooking beef ribs? I thought they used... Anywho, it changed the game of barbecue for me.
Now, in California, my family would cook beef ribs because they loved it. And then when I came to Austin, all they had was, like, pork ribs. I never really sought out to get the beef ribs, but I actually had properly cooked beef ribs, slowly cooked, and I'm like, this is amazing. But also, it comes with the higher price point than pork ribs.
Oh, for
So
sure,
like,
for sure.
It's different. So coming back to Austin, what is it? I had Alex Henley the other day on here, and he kind of busted my bubble in saying that, the world doesn't know that Austin is the music capital of the world. But I like to believe that. Like, that's the mindset that I have when I go out and film musicians. It's like, we are the music capital of the world. Let's represent that in a way that it's going to be acceptable to people who watch the videos.
Yeah.
So where does Austin music stand in the grand scheme of the United States compared to, like, LA, New York, Nashville? What is the difference? What is the difference?
The difference
if
is
anything?
authenticity here, to be honest. The scale of great music and musicianship here in Austin is I want to say unmatched, but it's not. It's matched other places. But the authenticity of people and what they play here is unmatched. Because the one thing that hasn't touched Austin yet is studio. The studios kind of change your thought process on how you create music and how you do this. So, like, a lot of people in Nashville and LA, like, they change their thought process because they give him that structure of, like, this is how you're gonna make it, this is what we need, this is who you gotta be.
And is it because
so then they lose
that
that
makes money?
Like,
Is that the process because that makes that studio that money?
Yeah, well, that's
Okay.
what they're looking for. That's
Right.
what they think that they can push, because that's what they think everybody else is looking for, because somebody else has already done it. So they basically put music into an algorithm or a box instead of saying, well, let's just push this and see who likes it, They're like, nah, we need security. So, like, you take the country world. Country world's got 100,000 people that sound just alike. And then you got Texas country, and, like, Utah, Montana, all these people that are doing like this, they call it outlaw country or whatever, but it's country. Like, but they writing songs, they telling stories, like they putting some passion behind it, and then you got what the wigs are ready to promote. So it's hard to say because like the musicianship in those cities is really good, like they're great, and some of the singers, Jesus Christ, like they are just great vocalists, but they're being pigeonholed into a box by these studios, and I hate it. But sometimes it's a necessary evil. That's a lie. It's not a necessary. It's just an evil, and it takes away from the soul of music. I'm trying to be PC, but I can't.
You don't have to be on. This is unfiltered.
I'm saying I can't on that stance. Like it just takes away from the soul of somebody creating.
Yeah,
and it hurts to see, but I don't know. It is what it is.
So one of the things that kind of pigeonholed Hollywood into pumping out the same movies over and over again was the elimination of being able to make money off DVD sales. Mm-hmm. That went away because of the streaming services.
Yep.
So do you think music has kind of gone that way because of Spotify and streaming services like that?
Yeah, because kind of a little bit, because playlists hold the strength in that world. So anybody that sitting out there create a playlist, they hold the cards to your artistry, I guess.
Yeah,
you know. So you if you're doing it independent, you throw your stuff into certain little things like Submit Hub, and like they'll shoot them out to different playlist curators, and if they say, well, you know, we usually curate towards the pop side, we usually curate towards I've heard that so many times, like we usually curate towards the pop side. Sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no, because it's too off the beaten path. So then you got to go with the lesser curators, but they have cooler music in my mind. So like they push your stuff out there, and you get decent spins from it, and then other people catch hold of your music, and then they'll put it somewhere else. So then you get deeper spins off that. Yeah, it kind of. I think so, because like there's no finding music anymore.
Right.
Like you can try and like do it, but it's all pretty much somebody leading you towards the music that they want you to listen to.
So how would you rework that system in your mind? How do you fix that problem with getting artists discovered, authentic artists discovered? I know that's a pretty elaborate.
Give back the purchase of music. Like it's like it would limit a lot of these people, and like a lot of these people find out who they really are. But if you take it back and you give the purchase back to the artist, or give it back to whoever's slinging it, like I mean, they money's gonna find a way to go find money. Like they gonna do it. But like if you give back the sales to the artist, you find out who you really are. Like I don't know, you find out what that artist really is.
I think one solution to discovering new artists is South by Southwest, and it happened yesterday. Me and my wife went and checked out Rickshaws, and then the band playing after, we really dug them. Never heard of them. And here's the problem that musicians should do is announce the band name throughout your set, because we saw their entire set and not one time did they mention their name. So we're gonna have to go.
That's one thing, man. That's one thing I had to work on when we first did.
Please, brother, for the love of God, I
got a fat tongue, so like I kept saying Brother Thunder, like it was like go together, and like people were like, what is he talking about? You had to get like this sign, this the name. Sign, do something, do a banner, I was put like, it on the kick drum. We are Brother Thunder, and it was just kind of like fat tongue together sometimes. So I had to work on that to tell people like who we are. Like I'll never forget, we played ACL, and I was set. Everybody thought I was in the tent trying to figure out like like, you know, doing some process or something. I'm like, nah. I was sitting there trying to figure out how to say Brother Thunder. That sounded like a fat tongue because I was like, I don't want to mess this up. I actually got on stage and fat tongued it the first time, but when it mattered at the end, I said it right.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, announce who you are throughout the entirety of your set.
You're right about that. You got to.
I don't want to be on my phone trying to look this band up while they're performing, and nor does my wife. So we're just there waiting for them to say their name, and I go, have they said their name yet? And she goes, no, I don't think so. I go, all right, well, we'll just try to find them on, you know, Hotels Vegas list. So that's one thing that if anything, if you're a band, please tell your name, and then on top of that, go to shows. I feel like is the best way to discover new music. For sure. And really get
beat
the authenticity.
The streets, see what's up.
Yeah. But to your point, how do you get people to come out to the shows?
Word of mouth. We still pass out flyers. I think it's fun. But yeah, we promote as much as possible. We tell people in advance where we're gonna be. Text blast to friends and fam who are in town. Instagram is usually the best outlet. Yeah,
tool. It's the best tool
for sure. It's definitely a tool. Yeah, it's the best outlet. Like, it's the best tool like to use right now is doing that. We've recently started doing these goofy videos, and they started out just being us. I mean, they still are. Like, we didn't really script it or anything, but we kind of just added different things to it to make it, put our little spin or a little touch on it. But our buddy's house, he's got 2 chairs just beautifully in between 2 figs. So we did a Between 2 Figs series to promote shows, to tell people where we were going to be. So, like, you got to think of all these little creative things to promote shows. And sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it feels like it sucks. It's work, though. You know, work sucks sometimes.
Yeah.
You have the fun parts of work, and then you have the sucky parts. It's like everybody wants to be a musician so they understand the hours you got to lock yourself away to figure out how to play the instrument itself.
Yep. One of the things that a comedian who was on here yesterday told me about the term barking. And what that is they're on the street. They're telling people who are going by, hey, here's a show, here's a flyer.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so, but he said the most successful way to do that is you do it the day before the show. Because a lot of people on 6th Street, they already have their night planned. So if you do the day before, maybe you get better, you know, a success rate. Do you think that would work in the music industry? Live event?
Kind of. That's what, like, I mean, that's how it used to be done a little bit. Is you put out the flyers and the posters before you take out something like days before or a day before. So for somebody, like, it puts that bug in their ear, like, oh, you know, March 14th, I got this. Like, I should go to this, or this goes to this, and that goes to like that. The promo that you do on Instagram for myself, like my personal stuff. Sometimes I get lax and I'll put something up like the day before or the day of, and people are like, man, I got other stuff to do. I would have come see you if I knew. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So like you have to kind of push that stuff out there, because a lot of the older crowd that have jobs and stuff like that, some have kids, you know, they have to plan around that and structure their day around that. So like they'll pick and choose their battles and be like, all right, so if they got a show on the 14th, can't make it to that, but they got a show on the 28th, yo, babe, we getting a babysitter, we out. So like it works, you know. I think that's why people did the, like, after the big bands did the tour type t-shirts and like tour type promotion where they list out all this stuff, some of the smaller bands did that for just shows in the city and stuff like that, just showing wherever you're gonna be. Yeah, and it works.
Have you ever like thought about, I don't know, now I'm thinking of an idea. What if you, like, a big artist comes to town, let's say Taylor Swift, Do you think barking would work just outside of that concert? Hey, I know you guys are here for this concert, but check us out either tonight or tomorrow night at blah, blah, blah. Here's a flyer. Or is that dumb?
I mean, in a sense, I think it might be dumb. But
I have a lot of dumb ideas.
But it's not that. It's just people are going to see it as annoying more than they're going to see it as kind of my thing.
True.
It's like when you come back to your car and there's a flyer in your windshield and you're like, man, who the...
Yeah.
And he started to get a little annoyed by it. Like, if you talk to somebody personally, I think it's a lot better when, like, it's just an open air moment.
Yeah.
Instead of somebody that's going to do something, like, especially people, like, you can tell somebody's in a rush or they're impatient and they're doing something. So you got to have that wherewithal. Like, you can't just talk to everybody on the street.
Yeah.
So you, again, pick and choose your battles.
What is your favorite venue? What are some of your favorite venues to play here in Austin, Texas?
Oh, all of them. I ain't gonna lie. I enjoy a lot of some of my smaller favorites because they gave us or me a chance when I like kind of first got here. Skylark and Flamingo Cantina are like two of my favorites that I like because I like I grew up in Mississippi. You know, I like the rundown kind of.
How would you describe Skylark when you first drive in there?
It's a hidey hole, man. It is. We used to go to this place called Po Monkeys when I was growing up, and it was a juke joint. Hey, it was by the definition, it was one of the last juke joints to ever exist. And when I go into Skylark, it gives me juke joint vibes, and I like that. Like, I don't know, something about it just seems special. It's like, you know, they didn't put no pomp and circumstance in it. You getting what you get when you walk in there. So it's like, you walk in there, we got beer, we got liquor, we got music. Mm-hmm. Like, it's I don't know, it's just straightforward. I love it. One of the places that helped me, I guess it no longer exists, kind of the stage at least doesn't. WTF, they were a big one on for a lot of musicians, like after COVID, because we couldn't play anywhere, and they had they had a platform for us, like with this the open jam thing, and a lot of musicians met each other there. Like right as COVID was kind of ending, like they started that up, and a lot of people that didn't have a home, they found one there. So that place was pretty cool for me. Bigger places. Empire was cool. I liked that. It sounded great. Mohawk sounds great. Believe it or not, some of the best sound in the city, whenever the neighbors don't complain, Armadillo Den, that stage. It's awesome.
Oh, man. Okay. Yep.
But, like, yeah, whenever they do, like during this week, when they can crank the sound up, can nobody say nothing to them? Jeez, nothing sounds better. Like, something about that open air sound is so beautiful.
Yeah. It's a good time. Are you familiar with the owners?
Yeah.
Okay. So I definitely want to have them on because every time I have a guest on, musical guest, they're ranting and raving about, you know, Armadillo Den and Chalmers now. They just introduced a
funny
stage.
Story.
Please go.
Me and Brett lived in a house about walking distance from here. Like, it's literally, you know where that roundabout is?
Yeah.
So on the other side of that roundabout, we lived there.
Okay.
Because he was in and out of here in Granbury because they were opening up Warren's backyard over there. So he just needed a room, basically. So me, him, and my buddy Alden, who was usually on tour half the time, like, none of us were in that house. We were always gone. It's just a house. But we lived together for a year. And Brett was like one of the, like, him and Biggie helped my career along more than most. Like, they put me in opportunities where I could do things that I normally wouldn't have done. Like, we did Jam in the Van. Like, I wouldn't have done that without their help or them throwing me into that.
Yeah.
We did a bunch of showcases and stuff that they put us in for. Like, it's just a bunch of things like that he helped out with. And
I'm gathering Brett is the owner.
Brett Berry.
Okay.
And
I didn't know where Brett came
and,
from. Okay,
Biggie, yeah, so that's one of the owners. If we're ever together, I'll introduce you.
Please,
he was
yeah.
there. He was there at that Chalmers gig.
Okay,
He was the
yeah.
one that was sitting around, walking around with
Got
the hat on. If I'd have known that, I would have just walked you over.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I had no idea who he was. Now I'm starting to put face to the name. But they emphasize live music. They built stages at all these successful bars. We love them. Like me and my buddies, we all love them all. The only gripe that I have with Armadillo Den is that there's no parking. But that I don't care because I just ride my bike down there. And,
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I very successfully ride it back, even though I probably shouldn't because I just have a fun time there. But it's very conducive to putting on a live show. I'm picking your brain to pick his brain. Why? Why did they put a stage at all their locations?
Because they know, like they get it. Like they know that music drives a lot of things. Like you can have a sports bar and you can have music. He's like, I like live music burns like for the city. Like it just does. And Brett's a huge music fan, so like he enjoys that aspect of it. And I think, I don't want to speak for him, but like I think he enjoys the fact of seeing people come up, like watching these bands grow, because he's watched so many of us. Like he's low key friends with half of these famous folks because he gave them a stage to play on, like when they didn't have none. So like, yeah, like I think that he just understands that that's one thing that's an allure to having a great place, is having a great music scene as well.
I think, I remember walking down on West 6th one day. I didn't have anything to do, and I was going to go check out WTF. And as I'm walking in, most of the bars are pretty empty. But you head into WTF, and it's shoulder to shoulder on a Sunday. And the only thing that I could put my finger on is that they have live music. All the other bars didn't have live music. They had a DJ.
That's what I'm saying. You go into I can't say it for DJs because sometimes DJs pull.
Sometimes, yeah. But
and like they have their thing because like people always say, I went and saw this DJ. I went and saw this band. They don't go, I went and saw this TV. Like it's, bro, they got this new 60-inch right there where I sit. Like, nobody says it's not the allure. Like you have to have some. Like some people, it's having the great bar staff, like pushing that. Some people it's having great music, and having a combination of all of it makes you a great establishment. So I think that's one thing that they strove for, is that they said, how do we make the best bar staff, so everybody knows this is what we represent. How do we build a stage where we know that like people come here and be like, the first thing they look at is like, dang, that stage looks good. I wonder who's gonna be playing there. This is how we do that. They say, how do we put together a string of music that we know people will come here to watch? Well, you hire somebody as beautiful as Julie Nolan, who is a booking agent over there, and she puts you in there. So like you set up this system to make you a great place, and you kind of let it go. And then they started branching off onto these other ones, and they kind of besides themselves, they let the GM kind of control just a little bit of like how the flavor goes, So they got the Dainty Dillo, kind of, caters to the woman's side of things, woman's perspective of things, and like they try to make things nice over there. And they got Chalmers, which is more of like sports oriented, like man cave. They kind of let these people work instead of holding them back by saying we got to do it this way. They kind of adds to the personality of the place.
That makes so much sense now. The Dainty Dillo. Me and my friends call it something else, which I'm not going to repeat. But so a few more questions here.
You got time, man.
We're almost over an hour. Even though, we're almost over an hour. Oh yeah, have you ever been to Lala's South over here?
It's a Lala's?
Yeah, South.
Not yet.
It's right around the corner. You're talking about great bar service. I was deep in line, and there was someone who came out from the bar and took my order.
Yeah.
I've never ever experienced that in my career of drinking at bars, and this like I don't know 20 years or so, 30 years. No, not 30 years. In my career, I've never experienced that before, and I'm like, I will forever be like
that's cool.
a patron at this place. Like I will speak always highly of you guys. So that was fascinating because I never experienced that before. But
you know, a funny thing that I didn't realize it until somebody brought it up. But lines for bar service used to not exist in certain places.
Yeah.
People would just walk up to the bar. And after COVID, people started forming lines.
Yeah. And
It's like, he was like, sometimes I miss the crowd, like just being here. So I could take 7 orders at once and I could do it. It just feels like they're waiting and I don't like it. And I'm like, I get it. I was like, telling the crowd, he's like, we do.
No.
But people just form lines automatically. Like they don't.
I want to be respectful to the person.
For sure.
I'm not trying to like, cause an argument because all of a sudden the bartender doesn't see that person who's been waiting there forever.
Yeah, for sure.
And she just comes to me first, and like that starts a problem. So no, to your point, especially the bartenders at Armadillo, then are like, guys, we don't have lines here. Come to the bar.
Come to us like this.
Well, we've been trained to not do that, so it's gonna be a minute. It's been 5 years, so we still are forming lines.
Like, I'm sorry. I just thought it was funny because I didn't think about it. And like, man, that's like, I miss being able to like maneuver and like talk to certain people at once and like get all the job done. Because like, to that credit, I mean, there is nothing like clearing the bar. It's like the sense of accomplishment. It's like, cleared it, but then they're in a line. It just kind of feels like you're taking an order, and it's like it takes away from like the hustle of the bartender in their heads. But also, I kind of like the lines because it's like a little bit of order to like the chaos.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, I don't want to like somebody coming up there shoving an elbow in my head saying, hey, let me get 3 lemon drops in a Mountain Dew. We don't even serve Mountain Dew, man. Get out of here. Sorry, so that's my rant.
All right, so bartenders are in agreeance that we just need to not form lines. Okay.
Some of them, yeah.
Got it. All right. Have you toured around the United States?
A good bit, yeah.
Okay.
Not as much as I want to in these past couple of years. I think the last tour we did was like a Southeast thing with Brother Thunder. It was cool. I just miss being on the road and like going around.
Seeing different places.
For sure. I call it the away mentality. Like sports players. Some sports players play better at home. And then there's some sports players that they call it villain mentality, where like you like being away from home. Like, I want to make you love me. Like, I want you to try not to. Like, I came here for this band, but man, I really like them. Yeah, I had that mentality where I just want to.
What is the best part about being on tour, other than what you just mentioned?
Outside of music, food,
anything. Yeah.
No, I'm saying like you experience in different cultures and different food and stuff in different states. I think that's the best part of tour, outside of like playing music for other people, and the camaraderie and like the friendship, the brotherly bond, I guess you could say, because sometimes we're ready to choke the shit out of each other. That comes with being on tour with your bandmates, because I mean you can say that y'all cool and y'all close until bass player puts his dirty toe in your mouth sleeping. Like that stuff you need. Like
we're going to war after that.
That's what I'm saying though. But I love that person so much more that we did that afterwards.
Oh man, that's tough.
Nah, that's never happened, by the way.
I know, but
I get
what you're saying. Oh my god, that guy would not be alive. He'd be unalived real quick.
Right?
So this is, I want to ask this question because I try to ask everybody. I'm stuck in my own bubble. I'm editing I'm going to shows. I don't travel outside of Austin very much. And then when I look at my phone, I see a lot of doom and gloom. I see a lot of fear from people. I don't necessarily feel that fear. I empathize with those individuals, but I don't necessarily feel it because I'm head down in my own work. I'm trying to provide for my own village. How do you feel about what's going on right now in anything and everything? Do you feel scared? Are you worried? Are you too busy to worry?
So a little bit of both. I don't know, because like some things freak me out for a simple thing. Like my dad never gets into politics, and then usually now he got into politics and he's like scared. This one thing is the Project 2025. And he sends me all this stuff. I'm like, Dad, calm down. He's like, we're gonna make it there. It's like, even if he's president, it's 4 years. Who cares?
Right.
I was like, she makes it in the office 4 years. It's fine. We'll make it through. We've been survivors our whole life. I'm not finna stop surviving because somebody's in office. But then I read some of the stuff on that Project 2025 thing, and it did kind of freak me out because as soon as he got in the office, a couple of those things started like coming through, and then more and more started coming through, and it started looking very Mein Kampf type. So it kind of freaked me out. But also, I don't think he brave enough for that. I don't think none of these people brave enough for that, because like nobody going backwards in time now that they've experienced what they are right now.
Right.
Like people just die about it. Like just real talk. So like I'm not gonna live my life in fear. I refuse. So I'm gonna keep moving. I'm not one side or the other. That ain't something that I'm here to gripe on. And to your credit, you say you worried about your village. I'm worried about mine too. So you stay the fuck out of my village.
Yeah.
We ain't got no problems.
Right. How are you trying to stay aware of situations? Because right now I'm just like looking at local news. That's all I like.
Yeah.
You can know. A lot of people don't know who their district
if there's
rep
something
is.
that worries me or concerns me, I vet facts, or I try to as much as you possibly can. Sometimes you just gotta see if this opinion is real or not, you know? So like I try to vet most of it and see where it's coming from. And if it's kind of got no backbone to it or no truth in my head, I let it run. That's it. But if it has some kind of truth, then I kind of start paying attention. Like I said, with the Project 2025, I told my dad, like, chill out, it ain't that big of a deal. Because it didn't, in my head, it didn't have no truth to it. And then the truth started happening, and I'm like, shit, hold up. Pause. All right. Because it slowly, all of the things on this Project 2025 thing started happening, and I'm like, something don't feel right. All right, this is starting to freak me out a little bit. So like, other than that, live your life, people, because we only get a short amount of time to do that.
Absolutely, and I don't want to spend it being
afraid.
Afraid. What are some of the things that you do to, well, not only not prepare, but to help ease the mental fear? What are you doing to solve that mental fear, or whether it be
right?
You right?
Okay. Yeah, whether it be poems or just anything. Writing songs.
What's so therapy for you is writing songs? That
and performing.
Okay.
I would be absolutely nutty if I didn't get to be on stage. Like crazy. And it helps me process things. That and breathing exercises and working out and like trying to do as much as I can to keep my endorphins moving.
Yeah.
Except for on the manic days, and you gotta hide before you do something crazy. No, I'm joking. But yeah, writing and music kind of help with that.
Okay.
Like we just released a song with Brother Thunder called "I Ain't Running Away," and it was not a regular beat. Like it was just more on the powerful side of like not living in fear and telling people enough is enough. This is where I hold my ground. Like it's just a cool reference to how we feel, you know, as a unit, as a band, and like writing that was cool. And it kind of released a little bit of like my woes and my fears, like knowing that it's there. And it's in my head, it's a powerful song because I've always wanted to do like the spoken words preach type of situation. And I finally got to do it in this song. And I was so happy because it turned out so good. Like, I don't know, in my head at least. I don't know how other people gonna feel about it.
I think that's the only thing that matters, as long as you like it.
For sure. I mean, I still want consumers to be like, this is dope. That's a little bit of the upside to like somebody telling you, man, this music is great. It kind of puts validation to what you're doing. Like, you don't need it, but man, I love it.
On that tangent, what are you doing to feed your ego, to feed that confidence?
I don't know, man. I'm not. I don't consider myself a big ego guy.
Okay.
But as far as
then what is feeding
what I
that
enjoy,
confidence?
yeah, it's positive feedback from like crowds and people. Like walking through the city and somebody, as simple as somebody recognizing you, like, you're that guy. And you're like, yeah, I'm that guy. And like it's like he said, it feeds you like a little bit to your spirit. Like, this is what you're doing it,
Yeah.
you know? Because like I could be playing stuff that I love to nobody and still love playing it. Like, it wouldn't change anything, but just a little bit of compensation from like the emotional side. Like, it helps. It goes a long way to have somebody tip their hat to you. You, kind sir, are doing it. Like, yeah.
I think there's always something that needs to feed the ego, and on the other side, there's
For
something
sure,
that
sure.
needs to humble you. So what humbles you?
A lot. My dad's humbled me my whole life. So my friends humble me my whole life. Anytime something good for me happens and everybody's like, oh man, this is dope, you doing that. Hey, chill out. Like my friends will check me like, nah, like, don't let them boost you up. Just because you're doing this, you still this person, you still do this. Like, they keep you in check. And the music industry in itself is one big humbling melting pot, because like you can either say they don't know what they're talking about, they suck, which I do, but also when they reject something from you and then you get down to the point where you don't want to do anything, you have to tell yourself, no, keep going. Like, it's not, they don't control that all, you have to keep pushing. So I, in my personal opinion, getting humble is so much better than getting your ego fed. Is because you find out who you are at that core, like who you are as a human nature. Are you the one that's gonna roll over, take it, lay down, or you gonna be like, nah, it's just one rejection, we good, we gonna keep moving. And finding out who that person is, well worth the rejection. They reject me any day of the week, it's fine. I think that's how men are built stronger sometimes, or some of them just turned into creeps. You know, women rejected them.
Yep.
Like, until you got rejected by a woman that you really want, and you figure out a way to obtain the lady that you want, like, you know that's this lady's for you. You ain't doing it. I'm sorry. Like, you gotta have that drive. Nah, don't be creepy about it, guys. But
Yeah.
it's just an analogy.
No, I get it. I get where you come from. Yeah, we are well over an hour. Anything else you want to chat about?
No, not really,
Okay.
man. Just
when's your next show?
Enjoy music and have fun. I'm playing tonight at Chalmers.
Nice.
Duo with me and my buddy Justin Langston.
Okay.
And then do very much for South by this year. But Friday we're playing at Lil Woodrow's. Brother Thunder is. And then Saturday we're in Fort Worth. And then Sunday, I think Sunday will be a fun day. Because
Sunday fun day?
yeah, for sure. But the homies are all kind of getting together to do like a South by send-off thing at WTF East.
Oh, okay.
And it's
Cool.
Brother Thunder, Louisiana Search Department, Nether Hour, Kazu, I think it's Zach Edwards or Josh Edwards. One of their homies, The Medicine, is coming from Lafayette to play. And To be honest, the homies, like, whenever we get together, it's fun times. I ain't gonna lie. Them my boys.
It's
them
a
my
party,
besties.
yeah.
But yeah. And that's another thing about music is being able to come up with friends, like watching everybody make these little accomplishments, and instead of getting hate from behind, like, man, why do they deserve this? Like, genuinely cheering on your friends and watching these people climb is so awesome and amazing. Like, I can't express that enough. It's like seeing your friends make it to a bigger space is different. And I know you filmed for Keezy before.
Yeah.
And that was
that
one of them.
guy.
Keezy became one of my best friends real quick. And I kept pushing Keezy. I said, man, look, I know you're a great drummer, but you're not meant for that backseat. Like, you're just not. I'm sorry. I was like, sometimes when we play together, I hate watching you back there. So, like, I'd rather hire a drummer and then have you in the front and just let you shine. And it took a minute to beat it into his skull, but once he did it, he knew. Like, it's like, as soon as it happened, it was over. The game had changed for Keys. He got a wireless mic. Next thing you know, he's off in he's off in the next neighborhood singing to you, and he like, man, get back to work. So, like, out of that like, it's fun to watch, like, people grow and become who they meant to be, and to watch their spirits soar.
And touch other people, you know, with their
Facts.
entertainment and, you know, what they've been put on this earth to do. So it's something special to watch. All right.
That's all I got.
That's all I got. Let's snap your photo for this thumbnail.
Let's do it.
All right. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Special thank you to Keith for coming all the way from his house, which is apparently a minute away, to come and have a chat with me. Thank you to the audience, and I hope you're doing well. See you on the next one. God bless.